Not a time for celebration. Adegboruwa on Fubara's return to office. As Rivers State emerges from a 6-month period under emergency rule, the celebrated return of Governor Siminalayi Fubara to his post has stirred jubilation among many. However, veteran lawyer and human rights advocate Ebun-Olu Adegboruwa, SAN, believes that there is little to celebrate, insisting instead that the episode should be a wake-up call for Nigeria's democracy and constitutional order. President Bola Tinubu imposed emergency rule in Rivers State, temporarily suspending some or all state institutions in the face of a political crisis. After 6 months, the emergency rule has ended and Governor Siminalayi Fubara has resumed his duties. Citizens gathered at the government house in Port Harcourt to mark the occasion. While many see the return of democratic governance as cause for relief or celebration, Adegboruwa argues that the crisis exposed troubling gaps in constitutional safeguards and the respect for the people's mandate. If citizens elect public officials, that mandate is sacred. Suspending it, overriding it, or removing elected officials without very clear constitutional basis undermines democratic trust. The legal basis used, especially Section 305 of the Constitution, presumably dealing with emergency powers, is described by Adegboruwa as controversial and ambiguous. It does not clearly spell out what powers the president has when he declares an emergency, particularly how far he may go in limiting or suspending democratic institutions. He insists that any action that suspends or removes democratically elected officers, governor, lawmakers, etc., must be clearly authorized with the circumstances laid out explicitly in the law. Without such clarity, there is potential for abuse. The matter of whether the president acted within constitutional limits, whether to sack or suspend elected officials, must be determined by the courts. This ensures that emergency powers are not misused. Adegboruwa's stance suggests that the ending of emergency rule is not the end of the story. The crisis exposed tensions between the constitutional guarantees of democracy and the extraordinary powers granted under emergency rules. Highlighted potential loopholes where the Constitution may allow excessive presidential interference in state governance without clearly defined checks. Shows that restoring a governor is one thing. Safeguarding democratic norms, transparency, accountability, and legal clarity is another. Specifically, clearer definitions of presidential emergency powers and limits on those powers ought to be enshrined. Courts must be empowered and seen to be empowered to check executive overreach. Citizens need to understand their electoral mandate and insist it be respected. How the government handles crises now will set a benchmark for future emergencies in Nigeria. Governor Fubara's return to office may signal a shift back towards normal governance in Rivers State. But for those tracing Nigeria's democratic health, the episode is a bitter reminder. The presence of legal frameworks and constitutional provisions is not enough. Their clarity, their enforcement, and respect for democratic mandates are just as critical. According to Adegboruwa, the end of the emergency rule provides an opportunity not for celebration, so much as for resolute reform.